You're right, it's not a vortex, and I'm not exactly sure what this vlog is going to be. I just wanted to. I thought I had some trouble sleeping last night, so I thought it'd be interesting just to try and. I mean, obviously, some of those thoughts are just your general ruminations. Some of them are not going to be that interesting. I was having these sort of. I do tend to get these when I really start having ideas or interesting ideas. It is sort of almost like a visionary experience in some respects, but it's chaotic and it's hard to actually interpret properly. And obviously, like the fact that I was couldn't sleep for a long time, didn't sleep till about 6 in the morning, it's going to psychologically affect my state of mind. So a lot of this might be incoherent, sound like rambling, but I just think it's good to. I mean, basically, if you're going to do philosophy or think about ideas, then a good thing to do is to actually capture those ideas or express them. So someone trying to learn, remember to do a lot more. I mean, this is partially why this channel, right? I mean, this is not even mostly for the benefit of a very limited audience I have on here, like 300 subscribers or something. It's just more, even for my own benefit in a lot of respects, to just remember and capture details of thoughts and ideas I have, because I am actually in a lot of ways actively lazy in the sense that I will often, I mean, it's quite easy to misinterpret me actually, because a lot of the time I will just be staring into space. If people look at me from the outside, they'll see that I'm basically staring into space with a blank expression on my face. But I'm actually usually thinking about something, and it's like going into a trance almost, where suddenly I'm in this world which isn't the world we're in now, right? It's not a. It would maybe a good term for it actually would be Mindpalace. If I get into this certain state, and sometimes these states can actually last. Usually, I mean, it's not going to be more than a day, but sometimes it can actually last for weeks. Not in the most extreme sense, but in the sense of, and this is not even a negative experience. It might even sound quite negative to some people, but it's actually exciting to go into the mind palace. It's almost like you are logging into a metaphysical space which isn't reality, actually, in a lot of ways. Or it is reality, but it's your own chamber of secrets, which is your mind. And it's actually a lot of creative work and creative output can actually come from these, I guess, trance-like states of, eternal experiences and everything. Now, obviously, I guess I'll go on to some broader, ruminations on this whole thing. Obviously, this is a sort of subject. Basically, what I'm talking about is a subjective state of mind that I go into where I just start grabbing this and that, like intuitions, thoughts, processed, analytical experiences, and obviously emotions will come into that in some respect as well. But I don't know. I guess probably most people don't. Not most people. I mean, who knows really? I mean, I'd say, but it's almost like a process of daydreaming, which I guess intuition is on some level as well. Like, if you're having intuitive thoughts, it's basically your mind connecting dots that weren't connected before and forming something new out of it, right? But the journey is often the most important, interesting part of the entire process, getting excited about new things. Because I find, actually, generally speaking, I tend to dip in and out energy levels wise with my excitement with these. Something I struggled with a lot actually is maintaining my interest in different areas often, which can lead to a lot of. I mean, in terms of actually, again, dealing with the real world can cause issues, actually, I guess. I don't know. I mean, maybe I think I'm a very annoying person to be around because I am this sort of wishy-washy, head in the clouds type of person. This is not a bad thing. I mean, I'm going to say it's not even a bad thing. It's quite a unique thing in some respects. It doesn't make it better or worse than anybody else, but it's just my thing. Sometimes I'm going to need to go to my Mindpalace and work on various things, work on projects. I sort of had this idea a lot at the minute and I've sort of created some prototypal code for this sort of thing. Is like basically creating. So we're going to this sort of new space in terms of technology, internet, and how we navigate virtual space. And something really interesting actually is and I've actually been interested in this ideas wise for 7 or 8 years. Like I've had conceptions of possible software you could create for representing this thing which I'm basically talking about, the mind. I mean, if you wanted to talk about this abstractly, you're talking nodes connected via lines, and it's basically almost like a map of not the brain physically, but the actual process of thinking itself. You could put this into different terms, like a mind map or whatever, but basically it's just a map of some sort with nodes connected together, I guess. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to ramble on for ages. That's some sort of vague associations I've been drawing out and not doing much about it at the minute. Again, the problem with this entire way of processing the world is that inaction can actually it can be a part of it. I mean, if you wanted to think about this in the extremely constricted realms of the INTP Myers-Briggs thing, then it's often why I perceived as lazy, because essentially our processor runs in a different way to most people. And again, I'm even using machine metaphors to describe basically this process, I mean, I understand that a lot of people find it extremely frustrating to communicate with us because we're almost robotic in our communication style. Like I think there's a few people, probably over INTPs and introverted thinking types, who'll be able to follow some of the threads I'm going down here. But not everybody will have the patience for the sort of tone, the robotic, drone-like voice of mine. I'm not unconfident about that. Maybe it's just how I sound, but whatever. It's fine to be different, and probably a good thing, really, longer term. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. It's just, like I said, a random vlog. Just no specific purpose. Just wanted to reel off some thoughts. I know there's not much content there, really. I'm not here to provide you content. I'm here just to content in the broader scheme of like what I mean. I'm not. This is not a channel for any one thing. This is just a video diary. I'm over explaining it. Have a good one. If you have any thoughts about what I'm talking about here, that sort of idea of a Mindpalace or a sort of space that you escape to internally, that which makes you actually feel more disconnected from the real physical world. Talk about that actually. I'll be interested in hearing about that. For me, how does this actually, let me just divert to this before I finish. For me, how does this express itself? So I get flashes of imagery, and this is, I'm just talking about mine when I close my eyes. I try to sleep usually, not actual physical hallucinations. I'm going to usually, I definitely am visual thinking dominated, so, and I'll get very interesting flashes of imagery which are really hard to explain actually. And I don't know, I'm probably quite unique in that sense. Like I will see geometric patterns when I close my eyes, and I'm talking in terms of the actual just in my imagination. The hard part is actually translating that into something meaningful and putting the work into actually take these creative, I guess like sort of prototypes that the mind generates by itself and find a, if not even a use for it in terms of a use case in the world, but just is that stuff just the artistic visual imagination? You know, maybe it doesn't actually have any practical purpose in the world, or is it? You know, so it's sort of just a working visual imagination mixed with an analytical mind, or you know, is there sort of meaning to these? I'm describing it vaguely as geometry, but obviously my mind has several different levels. Like I'm gonna have a lower mind, which I'd say is, you know, like basic drives, sex, all this sort of thing, emotional drives, etc., etc. You know, everybody has that too. Like I mean, obviously there'll be times where I'm just bored and I'm coughing tits and whatever else, and sex and blah blah blah. It's pretty natural. And there's like a sort of mid-level where it's basically more conscious. And then yeah, there's this other world though which I like to think of as more transcendent. I think, like again, this is metaphor. I'm not saying these are literally true. I'm just saying there's a sort of metaphysical space you can go into your, when you're in your mind palace, if it will, which is almost, well, it's beyond time and space. This is not a world that is constrained by the, you know, the normal limitations of time and space. Time and space, it's sort of outside of those things, and I mean it's literally a metaphysical space I'm talking about in this mind palace idea, and it's a good place to retreat to. It's good where you get, I mean, if you are a real analytical creative thinker, it's where you get most of your real work done, really, because it's basically the place where you analyze but also create, like a workshop almost. I mean, in this modern world we're in now, like, yeah, obviously most of my creative work's done on a computer with code mixed with visual design and blah blah blah. But you know, like I think if I was alive 400 years ago, I'd just be using the tool of that time to do the engineering thing, right? And you know, being a Renaissance dude, painting, trying to invent machines and whatnot. This has been a ramble. Like I said, I struggle with sleep a bit, so I had a massive lie in this. It doesn't really matter. Starting a new job on Monday, so I'll be less around, probably doing regular updates, but I don't know. I mean, what do you think about this idea of a Mind Palace? There's probably a lot further research on this, I'm sure. I mean, I'm beyond sure that in psychology they've been researching this stuff for a while, about how we basically have an internal space, maybe a retreat. But the whole idea of what we're trying to express here is not just about a retreat. It's actually, you know, a place of rest. It's actually about very active, mentally dynamic, moving, shifting meta space in your own mind. And to further ramble, because why not, this will actually get more interesting soon, because obviously these spaces are going to be possibly externalized by virtual reality soon, which will be an interesting evolution of, you know, this. I mean, maybe I should probably start experimenting with it. Like I've created some component libraries and other bits and bobs of experimental projects which could be applicable to this sort of cyberspace. So it might be an idea for the future. At the minute, I'm mostly just working on my Necronomicon project. I'm going to leave it here, which is a game I want to finish off. It's involving creating scripting dialogue systems and blah 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 blah. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I thought I'd just have a nice little ramble. And it obviously ended up being about mind palaces and sort of internal space. And I'm just repeating myself, so I'll be quiet in a bit.